The code flickered, its assessment brutal and instant. Ruby Hayes stared at the monitor, at her own face dissected into data points and percentages. The AI she had designed, the one that could supposedly predict beauty with startling accuracy, had just analyzed its creator and found her wanting. San Francisco's morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Symmetra's headquarters, casting prismatic patterns across the minimalist white workspace. Ruby's reflection ghosted in the glass, superimposed over the city skyline. 32 years old, and she'd just built what could become the most controversial beauty app in history, a neural network trained on millions of faces, capable of predicting how attractive someone would become with age, with different styling, with surgical optimizations. The irony wasn't lost on her that she'd failed her own algorithm standards. 92% accurate, she murmured to the empty room, and I'm in the outliers. Ruby brushed her fingers across the screen, tracing the contours of her face. The AI had marked her slightly asymmetrical eyes, her wider-than-ideal nose, the way her smile pulled more to the left. All fixable, according to the recommendation engine. All flaws that could be corrected, should be corrected, for optimal beauty trajectory. She closed the program and leaned back in her ergonomic chair. Symmetra was due to launch in 3 weeks. The venture capital was secured, the marketing campaign ready, influencers lined up. The promise: beauty is predictable. Beauty is achievable. In a world obsessed with appearance, Ruby had created the ultimate beauty oracle. And it had just told her she wasn't good enough. "You're here early." The voice startled her. Noah Jacobs stood in the doorway of her office, 2 cups of blue bottle coffee in his hands. Tall, with perpetually tousled dark hair and eyes that crinkled when he smiled, Noah was everything Ruby wasn't: relaxed, socially adept, and according to every beauty standard including Symmetra's, conventionally attractive. He was also her co-founder and chief technology officer. And the man she'd been carefully not falling in love with for 3 years. "Couldn't sleep," Ruby said, accepting the coffee. "Last-minute tweaks to the algorithm." Noah settled into the chair opposite her desk. "You've been making last-minute tweaks for a month. At some point, we have to let it fly. It's not ready." The words came out sharper than intended. "Ruby, the investors are all ready. I know what the investors want." She took a sip of the coffee, burning her tongue. "But if we're building something that's going to judge people's beauty, that's going to tell them how to change themselves, don't we have a responsibility to make sure it's right?" Noah's expression softened. "That's why we built the ethics framework. That's why we're marketing it as a tool, not a verdict." He leaned forward. "People are going to use this to feel empowered, not diminished." Ruby looked away, unwilling to admit what she'd just discovered. That even the creator could feel diminished by her own creation. "What aren't you telling me?" Noah asked. Ruby hesitated. "Nothing. Just nerves before the big launch." Her phone buzzed with a notification. A message from Vanessa Lim, their lead investor, need to talk about accelerating launch timeline. "Call me." "Vanessa wants to push up the launch," Ruby said, showing him the message. Noah's expression darkened. "She's been pushing ever since SkinShift announced their competing product." SkinShift is just a filter app. With 5 million downloads already. "Our window is closing, Ruby." She knew he was right. The beauty tech space was exploding. Filters had evolved into predictive modeling. Companies were racing to own the future of facial modification. "1 more week of testing," she said. "Then we launch." Noah nodded, seemingly satisfied, and left for his own office down the hall. Ruby turned back to her screen, reopening the Symmetra application. Her face stared back at her, the RS assessment still blinking in the corner, 68% beauty optimization. Below average potential. For a moment, she considered deleting the entire project. Instead, she began to code. The Symmetra offices buzzed with pre-launch energy. The sleek space, once eerily empty, now hummed with the voices of the marketing team, the clatter of keyboards, and the constant ping of message notifications. Ruby stood at the window of the conference room, watching a fog bank roll in from the bay, engulfing the Trans-America Pyramid. Behind her, the launch team dissected the latest user testing results. The demographic split is perfect, Mai Chen, their marketing director, was saying. 70% female users, 30% male. Most are between 25 and 40, exactly our target. And the sentiment scores? Noah asked. Mixed, Mai admitted. 73% positive engagement, but there's a vocal minority calling it beauty eugenics. Ruby turned from the window. They're not wrong. The room fell silent. 8 pairs of eyes fixed on her. Sorry, Mai said carefully, but did you just agree with our critics 3 days before launch? Ruby moved to the head of the conference table. I'm saying we need to acknowledge the criticism. This app tells people if they're beautiful enough. It suggests changes to make them more acceptable. There's an ethical dimension we can't ignore. We've been through the ethics discussion, Vanessa interjected, her voice cutting through the video call speaker. The app provides options, not mandates. People already use filters and editing tools. We're just making the process more intelligent. Ruby felt Noah watching her. His face remained neutral, but his eyes held concern. What if, Ruby said carefully, we pivoted slightly? What if Symmetra didn't just assess beauty, but deconstructed beauty standards themselves? Show users how arbitrary these judgments are. Vanessa's laugh crackled through the speaker. That's not a beauty app, Ruby. That's a sociology thesis. Our investors didn't fund a manifesto against beauty standards. I'm not saying abandon the core functionality, Ruby pressed. Just add context. Education. Noah cleared his throat. It's an interesting angle. We could include it as a feature in version 2, after the initial launch. Ruby shot him a grateful look, but Vanessa wasn't having it. We launch as planned, the investor said firmly. The marketing is done, the influencer contracts are signed. Ruby, I need you focused on stability and scaling, not last-minute philosophical additions. After the meeting dispersed, Noah followed Ruby back to her office. What's really going on? He asked, closing the door behind them. Ruby hesitated. Then she pulled up her own Symmetra assessment on her monitor. I ran myself through the system. Noah leaned over her shoulder, studying the results. She felt his breath on her neck, the slight stiffening of his posture as he processed what he was seeing. This is what you're upset about? A number? It's not just a number. It's what we're doing. Ruby turned to face him. We're teaching an algorithm to judge human worth based on facial symmetry and outdated beauty standards. And then we're selling that judgment back to people. Noah ran a hand through his hair. Ruby, the app doesn't measure human worth. It measures adherence to conventional beauty standards. That's all. And you don't think people will conflate the two? Not if we're responsible with our messaging. Ruby stood up, pacing the small office. I built this to help people. To give them agency. But what if we're just making them feel worse? Making them chase an impossible ideal? Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, show me your code changes from this week. Ruby froze. What? You've been here every night until midnight. You're not just fixing bugs. His voice was gentle but insistent. What have you been building, Ruby? She sat down at her computer and opened a hidden directory. It started as a counter-algorithm. A way to test Symmetra's fairness. She launched a separate application. It looked like Symmetra, but with a different interface, darker and more subdued. I call it Asymmetra, she said. Clever. Noah pulled up a chair. It uses the same training data, but instead of optimizing for conventional beauty, it optimizes for distinctiveness. Memorability. The features that make a face unique rather than conventionally attractive. Noah watched as she ran her own face through the new algorithm. The results appeared: 92% unique, 88% memorable, 94% distinctive. You built a parallel beauty standard, he said slowly. I built a truth teller, Ruby corrected. Look. She pulled up side-by-side images of celebrities, running them through both algorithms. Those with perfect Symmetra scores often rated lower on Symmetra. Those with distinctive, character-filled faces scored higher on Symmetra. This is fascinating, Noah admitted. But you realize we can't just swap this in 3 days before launch. No, but we could integrate elements of it. Show users both metrics. Let them see there's more than one way to assess a face. Noah was quiet, considering. Ruby could see his mind working, weighing business realities against her idealism. Vanessa would never go for this, he finally said. She wants Symmetra to be aspirational, not philosophical. Then we don't tell her until after it works. Noah laughed. The older ask forgiveness, not permission approach. Exactly. Ruby felt energized for the first time in weeks. I'll integrate just enough to prove the concept. If users respond well, we expand it in the next update. Noah studied her face. This matters to you. It wasn't a question. Yes, she said simply. Okay then. He nodded. But we do it carefully. And I want to review every line of code before it goes live. Ruby felt a surge of warmth toward him. Deal. As Noah left, Ruby turned back to her screen, to the two algorithms side by side. Beauty and uniqueness. Convention and distinction. The two faces of the same human desire, to be seen, to be valued. She began to code again, fingers flying across the keyboard. This time, with purpose. The night before launch, Ruby worked alone in the office. The city lights created a constellation outside her window, mirrored by the blue glow of the multiple monitors surrounding her. She had spent the last 48 hours integrating elements of Symmetra into the main Symmetra code base. Not a full integration, there wasn't time, but enough to give users a glimpse of the alternative perspective. A small button labeled See Beyond would appear after the standard beauty assessment, offering users a different view. Her phone buzzed. A text from Noah, how's it going? Need anything? She smiled despite her exhaustion. Almost done. You should get some sleep. His reply came quickly, so should you. Big day tomorrow. Ruby set the phone down and returned to her code. One more test run. She uploaded her own photo again, watching as Symmetra analyzed her face. The results appeared, unchanged, 68% beauty optimization. Below average potential. She clicked the new See Beyond button. The screen transformed, showing her face again, but with different metrics highlighted. 92% unique. Your eyes have a distinctive shape that occurs in only 3% of faces. Your smile asymmetry creates a memorable expression found in many historically significant portraits. Ruby felt her throat tighten. Even knowing she'd programmed these responses herself, seeing them applied to her own face brought unexpected emotion. She was about to run another test when a notification popped up on her screen. An email from Vanessa, sent to the entire executive team. After reviewing the final build and recent market developments, I've made an executive decision to add a premium feature to Symmetra at launch. The Perfection Pathway upgrade will offer users direct links to cosmetic providers based on their assessment results. I've already secured partnerships with 3 major cosmetic surgery networks. This addition will create a significant new revenue stream and positions us perfectly against competitors. Details in the morning meeting. Ruby read the email twice, her stomach clenching. This was exactly what she'd feared, Symmetra becoming not just an assessment tool but an active funnel towards surgical correction. The app would identify flaws and then immediately offer to help fix them, for a price. She picked up her phone to call Noah, then hesitated. What could he do at this point? Vanessa was the primary investor. She held the controlling interest. Ruby stared at her code, at the small act of rebellion she'd built. Her See Beyond button suddenly seemed pitifully inadequate against the machinery of commercialized beauty standards. A new determination formed. If Vanessa could make executive decisions, so could Ruby. She opened a new code window and began writing again, faster than before, fueled by urgency and conviction. Hours passed, marked only by the emptying of coffee cups and the gradual lightening of the sky outside. By dawn, she had built something new. Something dangerous. The Symmetra launch event transformed the company's main floor into a glossy showcase. Floating screens displayed the app interface, elegant bars served champagne and canapes, and a carefully curated mix of tech journalists, influencers, and investors filled the space. Ruby stood near the main demo station, dressed in a burgundy suit that the old her would have chosen for its ability to help her blend into the background. Now, she wore it like armor. Her hair was pulled back severely, her makeup minimal. She had deliberately avoided taking any of Symmetra's advice on her appearance. Noah appeared at her side, handsome in a tailored navy suit. "Ready," he whispered. "As I'll ever be," Ruby replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Did you get any sleep?" "Enough." She didn't mention her all-night coding session, the changes that now lay dormant in Symmetra's core, waiting to be activated. Vanessa approached, radiant in an ivory designer dress. "There's my genius," she said, embracing Ruby with the practiced warmth of someone who has already counted their return on investment. "Are we ready to change the beauty industry forever?" "Absolutely," Ruby said, meeting her gaze without flinching. Vanessa turned to address the crowd, tapping a crystal champagne flute with a silver spoon. The room gradually quieted. "Thank you all for joining us for this historic evening," she began. "Beauty has always been considered subjective, unknowable, a matter of taste and cultural bias. Until now." Ruby watched the faces in the crowd, the curious journalists, the skeptical tech veterans, the eager influencers ready to broadcast their reactions to millions of followers. Symmetra, Vanessa continued, represents the convergence of advanced AI and human aesthetics. It doesn't just filter or enhance, it predicts. It guides. It optimizes human beauty with unprecedented accuracy. A murmur went through the crowd. But don't take my word for it. Let me introduce the visionary behind Symmetra, our founder and CEO, Ruby Hayes. Applause filled the room as Ruby stepped forward. She felt Noah's encouraging touch on her elbow. "Thank you," she said, her voice amplified by the room's sound system. "Beauty has always fascinated humans. We've painted it, photographed it, surgically pursued it. But we've never truly understood it, until now." She moved to the main demonstration screen, a massive display dominating the wall. Symmetra uses a neural network trained on millions of faces across cultures, ages, and eras. It identifies patterns of proportion, symmetry, and harmony that transcend individual preference. She tapped the screen, bringing the app to life. "Let me show you how it works." Ruby uploaded a photograph of herself taken that morning. The crowd watched as Symmetra analyzed her face, tracing lines and measurements across her features. The results appeared: 68% beauty optimization. A slight ripple of discomfort moved through the audience. No one had expected the CEO to display a less than flattering assessment of herself. "As you can see," Ruby said calmly, "Symmetra doesn't flatter. It analyzes based on established beauty standards." She swiped to reveal the recommended changes. "And it suggests optimizations." The screen displayed her face with subtle alterations: slightly larger eyes, a narrower nose, fuller lips, higher cheekbones. Vanessa mentioned that Symmetra predicts beauty. That's true. But what if beauty isn't just one thing? What if the very standards we've taught our AI are limited by history, by commerce, by cultural bias? She noticed Vanessa shifting uncomfortably at the edge of the crowd. Noah watched her intently, clearly realizing she had gone off script. "That's why I've expanded Symmetra's capabilities." Ruby tapped a small button labeled "See Beyond" that appeared at the bottom of the screen. The display transformed. Instead of a single beauty score, multiple metrics appeared: uniqueness, memorability, distinctiveness, expression, character. Beauty isn't just symmetry, Ruby continued. It's also individuality. The features that make us recognizable, memorable, ourselves. She swiped through examples, famous faces throughout history, ordinary people from the test database, showing how conventional beauty often competed with distinctive character. But there's one more thing I want to show you tonight. Ruby's heart raced as she prepared to reveal what she'd built in those dark hours before dawn. Symmetra doesn't just analyze individual faces. It can analyze patterns, trends, the very nature of how we perceive beauty. She tapped a hidden command sequence. The screen changed again, now showing a data visualization, thousands of faces from Symmetra's database arranged in a complex constellation. This is the Beauty Bias Explorer. It shows how our beauty standards have been shaped by media, advertising, and cultural norms. Ruby zoomed in on a cluster. Here we see faces deemed most beautiful by our initial algorithm. Notice anything? The visualization highlighted patterns, the predominance of certain features, the narrow range of variation, the subtle influences of marketing campaigns from major beauty brands. Symmetra doesn't just measure beauty, Ruby said, her voice growing stronger. It exposes the machinery behind our perception of beauty. She tapped again, revealing a new section labeled Beauty Economics. This shows the financial incentives behind beauty standards, the trillion-dollar industries that profit from insecurity, from conformity, from the endless pursuit of an optimized appearance. The room had gone completely silent. Vanessa was now moving toward the stage, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Ruby," she hissed as she reached the podium. "What are you doing?" Ruby ignored her, addressing the audience directly. "I built Symmetra to understand beauty. But in the process, I discovered something more important, the systems that define and monetize beauty. The algorithms, both human and digital, that tell us who is worthy and who needs correction." Noah had joined them at the podium, his expression a mix of concern and something like admiration. "Symmetra launches tonight," Ruby continued, "not just as a beauty assessment tool, but as a beauty literacy tool. Yes, it can tell you how to conform to conventional standards. But it can also show you why those standards exist, who profits from them, and how to see beyond them." Vanessa grabbed Ruby's arm. "Stop this now," she whispered fiercely. Ruby gently removed Vanessa's hand. "The Perfection Pathway Premium feature will not be included in the launch," she announced. "Symmetra will not be partnering with cosmetic surgery providers to monetize users' insecurities." Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Journalists were furiously typing on their devices. "Ms. Hayes," called out a tech reporter from the front row, "are you sabotaging your own product launch?" Ruby smiled. "No. I'm fulfilling its true purpose. Beauty shouldn't be reduced to a number. And people shouldn't be funneled towards surgical correction based on an algorithm's assessment." Vanessa stepped to the microphone. "What Ms. Hayes meant to say is that Symmetra offers a comprehensive approach to beauty analysis. We're excited to share more details about our full feature set in the coming days. For now, please enjoy the demonstrations and the refreshments." Her smile was brittle as she turned to Ruby. "Board meeting now," she hissed. The Symmetra boardroom, with its sweeping view of the city now twinkling with night lights, had become a battlefield. Vanessa paced at one end of the polished table, while Ruby sat calmly at the other. Noah and the other board members occupied the space between, like a demilitarized zone. "You've violated your fiduciary duty," Vanessa said, her voice tight with controlled rage. "You've sabotaged millions in investment on some personal crusade." "I built a better product," Ruby replied. "One that disrupts beauty standards instead of reinforcing them." "That wasn't what we agreed to build." "No, it wasn't what you wanted to sell. There's a difference." Noah cleared his throat. "The initial reaction online is actually fascinating. We're trending on 3 platforms. The Beauty Bias Explorer is generating significant engagement." "Engagement doesn't equal monetization," snapped Vanessa. "Actually," said the CFO, studying his tablet, we've already had 6 partnership inquiries from beauty brands wanting to explore ethical marketing approaches. And our download numbers are exceeding projections by 40%. Vanessa stopped pacing. What? It seems, Noah said carefully, that transparency about beauty standards has struck a nerve. In a good way. This doesn't change the fact that Ruby went rogue, Vanessa insisted. She implemented major features without board approval. That's grounds for dismissal. Ruby finally stood. You're right. I did go rogue. Because somewhere along the way, Symmetra stopped being about helping people understand beauty and started being about profiting from their insecurities. She moved to the window, looking out at the city. I built an app that could predict beauty by conventional standards. And it declared me flawed. But instead of accepting that judgment, I questioned the standards themselves. She turned back to the room. That's what Symmetra should help people do. Not just assess themselves against an arbitrary standard, but understand the standard itself, its history, its biases, its commercial incentives. Noah was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. The beauty industry has been selling insecurity for centuries, Ruby continued. What if we disrupted that instead? What if Symmetra became the first beauty app that actually liberates people from beauty standards while helping them understand them? Vanessa shook her head. Poetic, but it doesn't address the fact that you violated company protocols. The board needs to vote on your continued leadership. The room fell silent. Before we vote, Noah said quietly, you should know that Ruby and I have a founders' agreement that gives us controlling interest when voting together. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. You're siding with her. I'm siding with the better product, Noah replied. And with the leader who had the courage to question her own creation. The boardroom door opened, and Mai hurried in, tablet in hand. Sorry to interrupt, but you all need to see this. She placed her tablet on the table, displaying a social media feed. The Symmetra launch was exploding online, with thousands of posts analyzing the Beauty Bias Explorer. Major beauty influencers are calling it revolutionary, Mai said. They're saying Symmetra is the first beauty app that tells the truth about beauty itself. We've had download spikes every time someone shares the bias visualization. Vanessa studied the screen, her expression gradually shifting from anger to calculation. The transparency angle could be marketable, she finally said. If positioned correctly. Ruby felt a flicker of hope. It's not just an angle. It's the core of what Symmetra should be. The room fell silent again as Vanessa considered. Finally, she said, I want a revised business plan by Monday. One that shows how this ethical beauty analysis can generate sustainable revenue. Done, Ruby said. And no more unauthorized features. Agreed, as long as we maintain the core mission. Vanessa nodded curtly and left the room, followed by the other board members. Only Noah remained behind with Ruby. That was close, he said when they were alone. Worth it, Ruby replied. He moved closer to her. You could have told me what you were planning. Would you have let me do it? Probably not, he admitted with a small smile. But I would have helped you do it better. Ruby laughed, the tension of the evening finally breaking. Next time I plan to disrupt beauty standards and risk our entire company, you'll be the first to know. Noah's expression grew serious. I saw your face when you ran yourself through Symmetra that first time. It hurt you. Ruby looked away. It was a reality check. The algorithm I built judged me and found me wanting. The algorithm was wrong, Noah said quietly. No, it was right, about conventional beauty standards. That's when I realized those standards themselves needed to be questioned. She met his eyes. We built a truth machine, Noah. I just made it tell a deeper truth. He reached out, hesitantly touching her cheek. For what it's worth, you would have broken my algorithm. What algorithm is that? The one that measures brilliance. Courage. Vision. His voice was soft. The one that measures people I can't stop thinking about. Ruby felt heat rise to her face. That's a very unscientific algorithm. Some things shouldn't be reduced to data points. He smiled. I thought that's what you just taught everyone. She smiled back, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. I'm still going to improve Symmetra, she said. Make it even better at revealing the truth about beauty standards. I know you will. Noah's hand moved to her shoulder, then gently down her arm. That's why I followed you into this venture in the first place. You see things differently. Is that a nice way of saying I'm difficult? It's a nice way of saying you're extraordinary. His voice had dropped to a near whisper. And I've been trying very hard not to fall in love with my business partner for 3 years. Ruby's breath caught. How's that working out for you? About as well as your attempt to build a conventional beauty app. She laughed softly. That badly. Instead of answering, Noah leaned forward and kissed her. Ruby felt herself responding, her hands finding the front of his suit jacket, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, she smiled. The board would definitely not approve of this development. Then we won't put it to a vote, he murmured. Outside the windows of the Symmetra offices, San Francisco glittered like a circuit board come to life. Inside, 2 people stood close together, silhouetted against the view, no algorithms needed to measure what passed between them. On a screen behind them, the Symmetra app displayed its new tagline, "Beauty isn't measured. It's questioned."